coddling my women friends, sitting at the table with millionaires. The narrative is tax loops, accounts offshore squares. It's not allowed.
We are live. We are live. We are live. What's good? What's good? Welcome, welcome, welcome to Coin Gang Ministries, the number one home for personal development. You at the right place at the right time. We got a great build today. Like I said, you at the right place at the right time. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're spending your time with this family right here, this movement right here. This is the number one home for personal development. This is ministry for the abstract mind. And I promise you, it's a safe space for anybody out there with that out the box philosophy. If you can see me, press 1, and if you can hear me, press 2. You know, our constitution over here is top shelf or nothing. So if you can see me and you can hear me, go ahead and press 1 and go ahead and press 2. I appreciate you. This doesn't move without you coming through. Check this out. If you got babies, keep your babies close. And if you got somebody in your life that's loving on you, let them. Don't get in the way. You know how they say back in the day, when love calls, go ahead and answer the phone. Go ahead and answer that phone when somebody's love is calling. I want to say shout out to my enemies and anybody from the past. You might tune in to see if I fell off. I can promise you none of these videos are going to be talking about how my life is terrible. I'm not balding. My melanin is still doing what it do. The only thing missing is you. And to my friends and family, I appreciate you being here. We got a great build today. We have a great build. We're going to talk about the different types of birth. The different types of birth. We're going to talk about why are people so addicted to easy? And the birth that we're used to is an easy birth. The birth that I'm going to talk about today is a much harder birth. We're going to talk about creativity suppressed. And then we're going to finish it off by getting reintroduced with ourselves because we strayed away from the path. My conversation today is a tough conversation. It may attack some people's identity, and that's okay. Trigger through it. Again, this is a safe space for out-the-box philosophy, so please trigger through it. Our conversation today is one of those. It's the harsh reality. Your children are not legacy. Don't hurt that bad, right? Your children are not legacy. Now, you may have thought they were, is because we are addicted to easy. It is very easy to have children. Some women can't, but majority people have children. It's not unique. You know how I know? If we go into the jungle, you'll see a bunch of living things. It's not unique. Children are not legacy. Children are descendants. Okay? Let me show you something real quick. I'm going to show you an individual. Now, you probably don't know this man's name. Don't worry. If you don't know this guy, it doesn't mean you're dumb. It doesn't mean you're out of touch. It just means you don't know him. His name is Vint Cerf. Stanford University, University of California, a PhD. He has a lot of different type of awards. I'm going to name a couple. The Alexander Graham Bell Award, the National Medal of Technology and Innovation, Presidential Medal of Freedom. He has the Queen Elizabeth Engineer Award for Engineering, right? Vint Cerf. You probably never heard of him. You may never ever mention his name again. but we're just going to talk about Vince for a sec. And someone else you might not have heard of. His name is Bob Kahn. Bob went to City College in New York and Princeton University. He is also a PhD. He also has a Medal of Technology and Innovation. He has the Charles Stark Draper Award. These guys are very, 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 very smart. Now, what do these two gentlemen have in common? Robert Kahn and Vincent Cerf created the architecture for the internet and collaborated on design software known as the Transmission Control Protocol / Internet Protocol. In layman's terms, these men are the forefathers of the internet. They are the reason that we can share data. Didn't know that, huh? These two individuals are the reason we can share data to one another on the internet. They collaborated on the software. Now, this is Vint. Vint has 2 children. This is Bob. Bob has no children. Which one of them has a legacy? Now, I told you what they did. Now I want you to tell me which one of these individuals have a legacy. The man on the right has 2 children. The man on the left has none. Which one of them has a legacy? Anyone? The man on the right has 2. The man on the left has none. Which one of them has a legacy? Okay, no one wants to answer, so I'll answer it for. The man on the right has 2 children. The man on the left has no children. But the man on the left, the 2 sons that he has, that's not his legacy. You know what his legacy is? Creating the software that allows them to pass data over the internet. One of the mistakes that we make, especially in the urban market, we make things mean what we want them to mean. Etymology is important, so let's go to it. Where does this say that kids are a legacy? Let me take this down real quick. This is actually the definition of legacy, the etymology of the word, the origin of the word. Body of persons sent on a mission. Ambassador, envoy, deputy. By definition, your children are not legacy. That's not my opinion. And then you can't come in and make the word mean what you want it to mean because of consciousness or New Age philosophy. Those gentlemen's legacy had nothing to do with kids. Now, there's a word in here, when I looked at the etymology of it, it was called, there's another word in here that it sent me to. Legate. One second. Authorized representative of the Pope, basically ambassador, envoy, originally provided with commission, send as a deputy, send with the commission. Where does it say babies? Let's go back to the etymology of the word. Where's babies? Anybody? Where's babies? Now, people were telling me both. They both have a legacy. Where's babies in the definition of legacy? What we do is we make things mean what we want it to mean. Legacy is not children. Okay? Now, let's go back over to legate. To collect, to gather, related to, ambassador, delegate, messenger of a state or of authority. All right. Now, what people get confused is descendants. Your children are descendants. They are not legacy. Children are descendants, not legacy. Now, let me tell you why people think that children are legacy. Because we are addicted to easy. The reason people think having children is a legacy, because having children is easy as hell to do. And the average man and woman does not have power in their day-to-day. The only power most humans have is in that bedroom. That's it. The problem with legacy, in the way that we understand it, is the bloodlines, first of all, that are trying to recreate themselves have nothing to contribute to the planet. So they put their wealth in making babies. Sir, since we're using English, we can use thesauruses, we can use etymology, right? We can find out synonyms to words. They're all dictionaries. One of these dictionaries is from the 1800s, right? The only way I can make a word mean what I want it to mean is if I make up the word. You don't get to be born in modern times and then try to recreate the word to make it fit what you want it to fit. Children aren't legacy by definition. Okay? They are descendants. But the reason many people think children are legacy and they focus on that is because we're addicted to easy. We love having sex. That's all it's about. We wouldn't create children if we couldn't have sex. We don't care about bloodline. We want to have sex. If there was a way to produce the children without the sex, we would not do it. We want the sex. Now, if we're talking bloodline and our children are our legacy, then animals have legacy too, because they're involved in the mating process as well. The reason we think that children are legacy is because we are addicted to easy. Not only are we addicted to easy, but many of us come from the church. So we heard, be fruitful and multiply. It never said in what though? It never said multiply in what? Multiply does not necessarily mean have a bunch of children. In fact, I'm going to tell you a secret, y'all. The earth is not asking us to have more children. In fact, the more children we have, the worse it is for the planet. We like to duplicate ourselves because of survival. The earth is not asking for that, though. The earth would very much like us to shut it down. What we do is we give things meaning, right? We make it mean what we want it to mean. Oh, it's a higher purpose. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's sex. It's biology. But children are not legacy at all. And I know that hurts some people because that's all people have to show for themselves while being here is babies. That's all many people did was fucking suck. That's it. And you produced children, but those children that you produced aren't gonna do anything great. Now, a man that has an empire, a woman that has an empire, see, I understand them having a lot of children because they have something that they would like to pass on, right? What they pass on is legacy, not the children. Interesting comment, sir. Interesting comment. Interesting. Sir, I have a bunch of books. I'm going to drop the line for you later because you was on my comment section and I want to hear what you have to say. So when I'm done this, I'm going to drop the line and I want you to call in. But I have books by Asians and Jews and Hispanics, and I have books by them. So I know what's on their mind already, right? And guess what? I listened to Ray Diallo today. He wrote The Changing World Order. He's also the author of Principles, all right? He is the number one guy when it comes to hedge funds. And you know what he talks about? Making things. He doesn't talk about having babies. That's just something he did with his wife. That ain't his legacy, though. Only people addicted to easy think children are legacy. You don't have to have anything but a body to have a baby. That's it. It does not make you unique. It does not make you a higher level thinker. It just makes you human and able to do it. Let me show you how ill legacy is. I'm going to post something. Soon as I post it, tell me what the meaning. Soon as you see it, who do you think about? All right? Get your hands on the keyboard. You ready? I'm going to post something. Soon as I post it, I want you to type in the chat first thing that comes to your mind. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Go. What's the first thing you think? Who do you think? Is there an individual that comes to mind? Oh, yeah. This is legacy. This is legacy. That's legacy, y'all. How is it that y'all don't know each other, but y'all know this? Y'all didn't meet up and agree on this. Y'all didn't get up and agree on this, but you all know it. This is this man's work. Y'all don't even know each other, haven't even went to school with each other, yet y'all all can agree this is Einstein. What's his children's name again? The only way you would know that is unless you read his autobiography. But when you seen this, you did not think of Einstein's children. What you thought about was this man's work. This is a different type of birth. In fact, it represents the most important form of birth because it deals with thought. Where would we be without planes, trains, and automobiles? Where do these things start? Where do they originate? They originate in the mind. Babies are not the only type of birth that humans can do. But because we think that's our legacy, that's where our primary focus goes. But that's not what history remembers. History remembers your work. The Kabbalion teaches us that all is mine. The Kabbalion teaches us that the universe is mental. Universe is mental. Now check this out. You know I love etymology. Let me bring this down. Conception. Act of conceiving in the womb. Grasp. Comprehension. Right? To take in and hold. Become pregnant. Now, if you've been following the chat for a long time, you know we looked up matrix. The matrix is a womb. The Kabbalion just taught us that the universe is mental, right? So all is mind. So anything that comes out the mind of the universe is a birth. We have a mind. When we think a thought, that is giving birth. We have been reduced to babies. That's it. Babies, not our ideals. That is not the most important part of your life. And I have a 14-year-old child. I have a 14-year-old child. That ain't my legacy. He has his own. My legacy is what I leave here. That's not my child. Notice how I went to this. You already knew what it was. That's legacy. You ever been to the Hoover Dam? Ill-ass engineering. That's legacy. You ever been to the Chrysler Building in New York? That's legacy. Whoever built them pyramids, that's legacy. Whoever built the Stonehenge, that's legacy. Whoever built the pyramids in Chichen Itza, that's legacy. But when you're addicted to easy, you think that legacy is babies. Do you know why? Because many of you, the only power that you're ever going to get in your life is to want to feel special about something. I'm not talking about feeling special. I'm talking about having an effect on unborn people. I'm talking about having an effect and influencing people that are not even on the planet yet. And the way you do that is through your human contribution, and it's not your kid. Your kid could drop the mission. Your kid could totally go off script. Has nothing to do with your legacy. That's the definition of legacy. That's the etymology. You will see nothing baby related. Just make up your own language. If you don't like the way the words are set up, just make your own language. Because we are masters of making shit mean what we want it to mean. What y'all are talking about is descendants. You see the difference between descendant and legacy? Extending downward, an individual proceeding from one ancestor in any degree. Let's go to legacy. Body of person sent on a mission. Hold on. What are we? Because I know some people. First of all, let me put the camera on me. Niggas not allowed to talk like this. First of all, right? Because I'm supposed to be about nation building. I don't give a damn about none of that shit. None of it. Absolutely none of it. I do things for my self-interest, right? And I have a hard drive right here that has damn near everything I ever created. While you're thinking about nation building, that mythical shit, I'm thinking about 50 years from now. I want people to know who I was. I'm not going to make that my son's mission in life. You know how we do over here. He came here through me to experience whatever he wants. So my mission is not his unless he chooses to pick it up and go. But I know I'm not falling in line with collectivism, right? I'm brown, so I automatically got to get in line. That ain't my legacy. My legacy is y'all over there, I'm going over here. But don't worry, I ain't going to trip you. I ain't going to talk bad about you. I ain't going to make up no bad press about you. Just let me go over there. Because I know that somebody in the future is going to pick up my book and be like, oh shit, there was this dude that lived. That's what I'm playing the game for. You don't extend yourself because of bloodlines. The majority of bloodlines on the planet are garbage. The majority of people on the planet descend from unproductive people, descend out of wombs that didn't even want the child. These children descend out of nuts that the father don't even want the child. And you're telling me that babies are legacy? Half you didn't even want your kids. Half the children wasn't even planned. Half the children are being born into the world. And when they turn 21, you're going to kick them out of the damn house and you don't even have anything to give them. See, it was easy to make them, but the thing that you give them, that's legacy. Whether they screw it up or not, it's not their legacy, it's your legacy. Your legacy is not your goddamn semen. I know you want to hold on to that because addicted to easy. See, it's hard to come up with the way that other humans are going to live in the future. It's hard to invent something. You want no smoke with that. But what you can do is go lay down with a woman and have a child. What you can do is open your legs and let a nigga get you pregnant. It's easy. It's not special. It's 7 billion people on the planet. It's not rare. It's not special. Let me tell you how irrelevant sperm is. Guys go to sperm banks and jack off in a cup and just leave. You don't do that to legacy. So your sperm can't be a legacy. Because I could just go into a cup and leave it and get paid. That ain't legacy. You know what's legacy? Is the authors in the chat that's sitting at your desk for 8-9 hours locked in typing, trying to come up with the best novel, trying to be the next Stephen King, right? And when you pass away, guess what? That book is still on the shelf. That's legacy. Many of you can't name Malcolm X's children, but you know he went to the UN. You know Malcolm X had the ballot of the bullet. If I said name Malcolm X's daughters, you can't. But you know the ballot of the bullet. That's legacy. Many of you can't name Garvey's descendants. You know the Black Star Line, though. You're going to be dead one day. Look, I don't like to make up words. Legacy has nothing to do with children. This is the etymology of the word. Communication is important. We have to know what words mean, not what we want them to mean. There are some places the urban market cannot put their emotions. Beloved, this is the etymology. Etymology means the origin of the word. So any definition there is, this is the original. You see, 14th century, legacy, medieval Latin, legatia, legatus. Okay. When we used to go to our Morris science classes 15 years ago, we were taught to look up words with thesauruses next to us. We needed to know the synonym and antonym of words. But the most important thing, we had to know etymology, because etymology is the origin of the word and how it take different forms based on it, different regions in Europe that it was pronounced. If you have a Merriam-Webster's dictionary, that is a modern dictionary. I go to legacy, or excuse me, I go to etymology. Okay. All right. So we're clear here, right? I'll let you know if I'm arguing my opinion, right? We can't go back and forth on what is. This is what is. Now, check this out. I'm gonna open the line in a sec, right? And let me tell you why I'm gonna get pushback from this, because this is where people's identity is. I'm not saying nothing to you as a mother or a father. I'm a father. I am a father. And my son is everything to me, right? He's not my legacy, though. My son is not my human contribution. That's not my contribution. That is biology. Dogs do that, right? Cats do that. It's not unique. But I can do something the rest of nature can't. I can birth a thought. And what I'm telling people is they are more than just baby makers. And you've been reduced to not birth any thoughts and focus on one birth. And that is the birth babies, and keep making them wards of the state. Oh yeah, here goes another social security number. Oh yeah, that's going to go on Wall Street. Oh, yeah, more wards of the state. Oh, yeah, more wards of the state. There's no legislation against it. Trust me, if there was power in having babies, they would put some legislation on your ass. But guess where the power is, though? Everybody can't read. Everybody can't read legalese, right? Many people don't know the different parts of speech. Many people don't understand logic, reason, and rhetoric, the parts of grammar. People don't know the difference or the sameness of glamour and grammar. Oh, it's power in that. Huh. How do I know? How do I know? I don't do stats, right? Our whole society is based on this. Did you know that? The trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, right? Do you know magic is how you structure a sentence, right? Have and have nots are based on who knows how to use language and who doesn't. It's bigger than babies. Oh, but I get it. And here's where my compassion goes. For those that say they are ADOS, many of you have a history of breeding farms. So that's all you know, right? So some of you have that in your bloodline because your ancestors were part of breeding farms. So you can't see past having children. You can't see past sex. So when I say that birth is actually birthing a thought, you're like, hell no. Because your identity for generations is to have a bunch of children. Because that's what gives you meaning. And I ain't knocking you. But that ain't legacy, though. If I round up your entire family and I destroy your bloodline and take them off of here, your name can still live on. It depends on what you created. It depends on what you wrote, what you manufactured, what you produced. You don't even know this dude. He created the software that allows us to send data through the internet. That's legacy. His legacy is not his kids. The entire planet is profiting off his contribution. That's legacy. If you find a man or a woman and you come together and you have a connection, right? And you birth a child, great. That's descendants. That's descendants. That's not legacy. So, what many people are stuck in is suppressed creativity. So, on the right, you have an extinct volcano, a dormant volcano, and an active volcano, which is erupting. Now, many of us have extinct creativity. There's no flow. Now, a lot of us are dormant, right? The ones that aren't extinct are dormant, meaning you can erupt, meaning you can give birth to something. The potential is there. A lot of you aren't extinct. You have the potential to do more. But you never erupt. You dormant. And eventually dormant goes to extinct. And then you have active. And the same way that the lava is pushing through the volcano, that's how creativity pushes through our mind. That's what a thought looks like when we give birth to it. Boom! Just like that. Big bang. When you come up with an amazing ideal, boom! When you come up with a product or a service or something that's going to change the trajectory of humanity, boom, that's how it happens. You want to be active in your creativity, in your birthing. It just doesn't stop with you being a mother or you being a father. That's not your legacy. It's sentimental. It's admirable. It's sweet. The baby partner is cool. That's not the legacy. Birth. Right? Birth. This is a good question. Based on definition, Joe Jackson's kids are not his legacy. Based on definition, Joe Jackson's life insurance or a living trust is legacy by definition, especially when we go into the legal terms of it. Legacy is not babies. And I'm telling y'all that a lot of you are just dormant. You ain't extinct. You're not just a baby maker. I don't care how many children you have. I don't care how many children you have as a man, as a woman. You have another ability. You have other things that you can give birth to that will outlive the bloodline. Words are important. What does legacy say? Body of persons sent on a mission. To do what? Come on now. Sent on a mission. Do not put your identity in sex. Come up out of there. That's not all we are. The world competes on who has the best ideals. You ain't just a baby maker. You ain't just a dude dropping off kids with different women. That's not legacy, sir. Put the pen to the paper and create something. That's your legacy. Pass something on in humanity. The problem is you need a reintroduction with yourself. Look, this child right here is not thinking about no babies. You know what this child is thinking? Birthing. Not babies, though. Ideals. This child is thinking about how many different ways can he rearrange those blocks? How many creative things can he do with those blocks? He's not thinking of birthing children. See, this child births, we fuck. There's a difference. This child is tapped into its imagination. When we become men and women, we start thinking about survival. Oh man, I gotta have some babies. For what? I mean, for what? I don't hear nobody coming from the dream world and was like, yo, I was meditating and the spirits came and told me that I was a vessel and they're gonna come through my body. You're having babies because of survival. I'm not gonna be here that long. So you want to pass the gene on. But every gene we pass on, the earth is like, God damn it, would y'all stop? You are using all my resources. You are pumping the blood of me out of the earth. The more children you have, the worse it is for nature. That only hurts your feelings if your identity is caught up in sex. That only hurts your feelings if your identity, if you haven't thought about nothing further than get married, have kids, die. I hope you're not a millennial thinking that way. I hope you're not Gen Z thinking that way. Go to school, get a job, get married, have a baby, die. You good with that script? You good with that script? You see all these books I have behind me? Some of the authors are dead, but their work lives on to inspire. That's legacy. What you do with your hands, what you do with your time. Legacy is a person on a mission. That ain't Ken's opinion. That's what the etymology says. Body of persons sent on a mission. As much as I love my son, he got my face. He ain't my legacy. That's not the biggest thing that I'm going to do in my life. That's not my biggest contribution to the human experience. But when you're addicted to easy, you think that is. That's all you're focused on. Well, the kids, having kids. I had one kid for a reason. For a reason. Because I knew that's not all I am. And I knew that I like my time to create more than I like having 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 kids. Now, for some, that's for you. All good. But that ain't your legacy, though. We need a reintroduction to ourselves. When we came to the planet, we was not thinking of having babies. We was thinking about creating things and doing things. And somewhere along the line, someone done stole your innocence from you, stole your creativity from you, stole your imagination from you. And now you were just caught up in the cycle of being married and having babies and this endless loop of go to work, come home, fuck. Go to work, come home, fuck. Go to work, come home, fuck. Up, new baby, argue, go to church, Easter, ha ha, hit the cookout, ha ha, ha ha, ha. That's your life. And then you die. And it's over. And then your children do whatever they want. And then they die, right? Maybe they have a lot of kids, maybe they don't. But then those kids die, right? Now we're 3 generations away from when you was here. Ain't nobody thinking about you. You know why? You didn't make nothing. You didn't create anything. And I'm telling you, there's another type of birth. Let's go back to conception. Act of conceiving in the womb. The mind is a womb. The Kabbalion tells us that all is mind. That's where birth starts, or that's where the life starts. Thought is also life. And if you let these people reduce you to nothing but baby makers, you actually benefit them, because there goes another Social Security card printed out. And if you know that game, you know what I'm talking about. Up, there goes another person participating in a corporation, getting bills in their name in all capital letters, capitis maximum diminutia. I do that too. You know how your name be in capital letters and you get a bill in the mail from a credit card company. The credit card company is dealing with you as an actual corporation. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I did that too. Yeah. I read Behold the Pale Horse. I was in more science class. I know about sovereign citizens. I've been doing this so long, back when they were saying the dollar was going to fall and be placed by something called the Amero. I had David Icke books. I had Anthony Hilder books. I was in the room listening to Steve Coakley break down the boule. Who you think you talking to? I could go conscious too. Back when Khalid Muhammad made the comments on Kearney campus. Huh. Huh. When Natural Tahuti was saying the black man is God on 125th Street. Hmm. I was buying Nawapi and Nation books from the vendors on in Harlem off the street. They had a nation of gods and earths, but man, whatever. And you know what I'm talking about? Legacy. Father Allah, you know who that is? You know 5% teachings? You know Nation of Gods and Earth? That's Father Allah. That's legacy. You know Elijah Muhammad, message to the black man, how to eat to live? That's legacy. That's legacy. Find yourself again, because you was this boy. You was this baby here when you came and you was figuring out what to do with these blocks. You was trying to figure out, what do you do with these blocks? I want you to go back to when you thought like this. So you can go in your room, you can pick up that notebook, and you can start to dream again. They done stole the dream. Because trust and believe, the children, what's weird to me is, why do people think the system is rigged, but yet you'll have children and bring them into a rigged system? Make it make sense. You believe in systemic racism. You believe the system is rigged. You believe the world is crazy, but you'll have children though. How is that not child abuse? I'm going to drop the line. My topic is children are not your legacy. Stay on that topic. If there's no smoke, great. But if there is, here's the number: 520-510-3254. You heard my points. I'm telling you that children ain't legacy. 520-510-3254 if you want to call. But if not, I'm not going to beg, right? Because I have shit to do, because I'm working on my legacy, right? Other than that, I hope people get to work, right? Right? Work that's going to extend your name. Because once people stop saying your name, you actually die, right? You don't live forever from babies. You live forever by people saying your name, deifying your completed works, completing your uncompleted works, and building edifices of you. That's how you live forever. That's how you live forever. You live forever by people completing your uncompleted works, deifying your completed works, building edifices of you, and saying your name. That's the blueprint to live forever. Once people say your name, you're here. You can never die. Right? I know you want to, I'm an ancestor. I'll live through. You just want to fuck. That's all this is about. Do your thing. I like to, just like everybody else. Squawk, 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 squawk. I like that too. But that ain't legacy. There was an individual giving me some pushback. It's funny when I open that line, they're never there. If you disagree, that's the number, 520-510-3254. That's my position, that children are not legacy. And by definition, they aren't. Right? So if you disagree with that, oh, hold on. Yo, hello, what's happening?
Good day, good brother. How are you today?
I'm good. What's going on? Have you been listening?
I've been listening. I've been listening, of course.
Do you agree or disagree?
I agree with some, and I disagree with some.
All right, let's start where you agree.
I agree with when you say, somebody has a book, something that they left here, that could be a part of your legacy. That's your legacy. I agree with stuff like that. That's personal property, right? Would you consider that personal property or property?
Yes, sir. Or yes, sir. Intellectual property. Yes, sir.
Intellectual property, but once it's in a physical format, it becomes
personal property. Yes, sir.
So I agree with that. There were several other things that I agree with too. I just can't pinpoint it, but we're gonna stick with if you leave a book here or whatever that MC square thing that you put up with Einstein. I don't know if he actually owns that. I just know that he's known for that. So but you do remember. I don't know I know Einstein was on his name in some of his work, but when you put that on the screen, honestly, I didn't know who that was. Just I guess you can blame that on my lack of knowledge. So that's where we agree at. I agree that the book is something that we would say is part of your legacy.
Okay, where you disagree?
I guess I want clarity on when you say children aren't your legacy. I would say they aren't your legacy too, but they are part of your legacy.
Are we going by definition or what we want the word to mean?
Well, I think you got your definition from Etymology, and you got late 14th century legacy, body of persons on a mission, Latin legatia, from Latin legatus, ambassador, envoy, deputy, noun use of past participle of legare, send with a commission, appoint a deputy, appoint by a last will. See legate. And then the second paragraph, it says, sense of property left by will, a gift by will, appeared in Scottish mid-15th century. Legacy hunter is attested from 1690s. French legs, a legacy is a bad spelling of Old French laïs, see lease. So if we're going by this two paragraphs of what legacy is from the etymon line, children are considered property. So I would say, just like that book, they too are a part of your legacy. And that's where my disagreement comes.
Tell me what you mean by children are considered property. How so?
They're your offspring. Children, they're chattels.
But property though, how so? Do I own the child?
Let's go by legacy and Black's Law Dictionary.
Okay.
A disposition of personal by will. Legacy and bequest are equivalent terms, but in strict common law terminology, legacy and device do not mean the same thing and are not interchangeable. Later, being properly used only in relation to real estate. But by construction, the word legacy may be so extended as to include realty or interest therein.
Okay. Where did I didn't hear babies?
We hear property, disposition of personal. But then we go to the word personality in law. Personal means personal property, movable property, chattels. Now we can go on and look at chattels and what that looks at in law. We know that chattels is considered personal property.
Yes, sir.
So when you say that semen, when you say that you're in a sperm bank and your disposition and you're dispensing semen, right?
Yeah.
That's considered personal property, yes or no?
They own it. You sign.
They
You
own it. You sign a contract,
mm-hmm.
and if they damage that personal property of yours, they could be held liable for that. That comes from your body.
From the sperm bank, I don't know the terms of agreement though.
Exactly. So when you dispense semen and you put it in a sperm bank, and you later come back 5 years later, you're coming back to collect your property.
Can they do that?
Can who do what?
So someone that does that in a sperm bank, can they come back and collect it?
Maybe I'm confused with when you say sperm bank.
No, an actual sperm bank, bro. There's men that can go for money, give sperm to a sperm bank, and they will pay him.
Okay, I stand corrected with that. So I'm speaking about when men take their sperm to a particular location and they want it held for when they're ready to have children.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about for commerce. But here's the thing though. When I go to descendants is specific. I don't have to look for another definition. Descendant says an individual proceeding from an ancestor in any degree. It's specific. When I go to legacy, body of person sent on a mission, has nothing to do with children. Notice how descendants is very specific.
But you stop right there, though, good brother. It's another paragraph right there on Etymology online. Of legacy.
But bro, I read the entire thing before I posted it. It has nothing to do with legacy. I mean, children have nothing to do with legacy. But you said something. Children are, so my son is my property. That's
absolutely.
How so?
Why wouldn't he be?
I'm asking you how.
I I'm asking you, why wouldn't he came from you, right?
I'm asking you a question and you're asking me a question back. I'm asking you to tell me, how is he my personal property?
It's the children are supposed to be property of the mother and the father.
Mm-hmm.
That's how.
Mm-hmm. So he's my descendant. So is he his grandmother's property too?
He's a descendant of the grandmother.
Is he her property?
No, he's your property. He came from you. He's a descendant of the grandmother.
So how come she doesn't have any ownership?
Because your grandmother's children are her property.
So, but I'm saying though, when does it end though? So if his mother came from a woman, then doesn't my son's mother also have property? Doesn't she own him as well?
Absolutely. You guys are supposed to be joint 50-50 owners of your offspring.
Mm-hmm. Sir, my son is not my property. He's not my property. Right? He's my son. He's a descendant. He's not my property. Right? I have legal obligations, feed, clothes, shelter, but he's not my property though, bro. Right? So let me ask you this, because I'm very specific with words. If he's my property, is he my slave?
That's going into something totally different. I would not say it's just slave. I mean, I don't know what.
Because
see, when you say slave, but the first thing I think of is someone that is worth. That's the first thing that jumps to my mind. So, like, if you want to get in the word place, then I'd have to look up what the technical word of slave. Because, like you said, the first thing that comes to that screen, you're gonna think of somebody. You think of a name. So I might go by what I thought slave, but I don't know. I can't say that your child is just slaves. I can't say that.
Okay. So all right. If he's my property, I can do anything I want to him. Yes?
No, you can't.
Then he's not my property. Right? He's not my property. Because I can't do whatever I want. Hey, I got this notebook right here. I'll tear every page out of this notebook. I'll spit on it. I'll wipe my ass with it. You know why? It's my notebook. Property is not conscious. My son is conscious. So unless my son loses the ability to reason, loses consent, loses agency, he's a human. So if my son is property, then I should have no problem anywhere in the world where a human owns another human. I should be totally fine with that. What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Let's do this. Let's do this, Ken. We're gonna go back to that. The offspring. So the offspring are equally the property of the father and the mother. And
what?
So
okay, go. I'm listening.
It may not sound natural to refer to our offspring as property, but it is a fact. The offspring are the property of the father and the mother, and that's why when the child comes out of the womb, the father and the mother shares 50-50 custody, and that property right is not supposed to be deprived unless by due process of law, requiring a judgment by peers.
So listen what I'm saying. If my son is my property, beloved, CPS could come take my shit if I don't treat my property right.
That's because you so you're aware, you said you can go back into all of that, the birth certificate and so
right.
When you want to get technical terms like that, then yes, that's how they got a hold of it.
So
but when you want to, go ahead.
So I'm going to ask you. So do the state, me and his mother, all share equal ownership? Because the state could come in and take my child.
lawfully they can't. If you don't know the law, of course they can.
Regardless, they can't come in here and take this notebook.
Say that one more time.
They can't come take my notebook, bro, unless this notebook has been accessory to some type of crime. But back on the thing, you have children?
I do, a 16-year-old.
That's why you think children are a legacy. I'm a father too.
I'm not saying they are your legacy. I said they are part of your legacy. If you're saying that a book can be part of your legacy, then a child can be a part of that as well. They're not just the entire legacy. No, that doesn't make sense.
Okay, so when I'm asking you, fam, are you going to make the word mean what you want it to mean? Because nowhere in the etymology is children part or is children legacy. However, they are descendants, though.
But property is a part of that legacy definition on Etymon online.
But my child is not my property.
I don't see how you can't say a child is. Look, property. What does property mean? What does property mean, good brother?
Do you want me to look at the etymology?
Look at the etymology. Look at whatever. Look at. I'll go to the law dictionary, fourth edition. You go to etymology.
Property. Okay. So I'm gonna bring it in so everybody can see what's going on. Let's look at the word property, the etymology. All right. Nature, quality, distinctive character always present in an individual or class, possession, land or goods owned, things subject to ownership. This sentence is rare before from Anglo-French modification, individuality, peculiarity, ownership, property, propriety, quality, literally special character, a loan translation, for possession. This has nothing to do with humans, sir. So for my okay.
I didn't see that. 1 second, go back. I'm not looking at what you look at.
Okay.
Nature, quality, distinctive character, always in an individual or class. Later possession, land or goods owned. Things subject to ownership. Things subject to ownership. Things subject to ownership.
My son is not a thing.
But this sense is rare before 17th century.
My son is not a thing, sir. The notebook is a thing. Isn't a noun person, place, or thing? So for my son to have property, for my son, let me tell you how.
Hold on. Well, we didn't finish. Ownership, a property. You're on. Like again, I'm just telling you. For my son to be property, bro. Guess what I would have to do? Call him black. Now he could be property. If I'm raising a black male, now he can be property. If I'm raising a black daughter, now she could be property. Because black is a thing. So the only way my son can be property is if I call him black. He's not legacy, bro. He's a descendant. I have more proof on my side. We have to speculate. We can go into meanings of what the words that I'm using, and there's no mention of what you're saying. I'm gonna stick with that your children are your property.
That's fair. I mean, that's what you believe?
Because it says a property right there. I mean, your children, I don't believe. You come from me, you're my property.
No, sir. I'm not, sir. My child is not my property.
So if they are your property, then essentially they're a part of your legacy.
He's not my property. I'm not agreeing with you.
So whose property is it?
Whose property is my son's?
Mm-hmm.
He's not anyone's property.
He's your property.
No, he's not. So listen, let me tell you something. If he's my property, when he's old enough to make decisions on his own, how the hell he can leave without my consent?
I don't know the answer to that question, Ken.
If he's my property, bro, he has opinions. Property don't have opinions. I own a home. It does not have an opinion.
But you're going somewhere else with this, though. With it.
Listen. If somebody was to do something to my child, I'm avenging my descendant, not my property. When I come put the wrath of God on you, that's because you harmed my descendant, not my property. And the only thing about the conversation, bro, is you said you was a father. That's a beautiful thing. What I'm telling you is that ain't all you are.
Hold on, let's go back though, Ken, because it's the first word says the first word that you got up there, right?
You can't, bro. No matter. Go ahead.
Hold on. Just give me 1 second. The first word at property says nature.
Yes.
So when you look at nature, etymologically, it says restorative powers of the body, bodily processes, powers of growth, from Old French nature being principle of life, character, essence, from Latin natura, course of things, natural character, constitution, quality, the universe, literally birth, from natus, born, past participle of nashi, to be born, from pi root gene, give birth, beget. So if you want to look at the word in that particular capacity, property, nature is specifically said to give birth.
Beloved, I just want to tell you something, bro.
Your legacy. That is the property, good brother.
Let me tell you something, bro. So just a little bit of background on me real quick. So there used to be ciphers in my hood, right? Where people
we just want to disregard that though?
And I'm about to tell you something. Because you have to know that I've argued with the best of them. And what you're doing is you are trying to make it mean what you want it to mean.
I'm not. Are we going by definition?
My child, bro, if they wanted to say child, it would say child. We wouldn't have to do, beloved, we wouldn't have to do riddles.
It wouldn't say that though. It's not even a matter of riddles. We already know how these tricks go.
Your child is not your property, beloved. That's not your property. And guess what? The moment you treat it like property, you will lose it. You'll lose your child. My sneakers are property. I do whatever I want with them. I don't handle my child like property, beloved. I ask him about his needs and his wants. You don't do that with property. You don't.
I'm just telling you what the words say.
And nowhere in the words does it say, I'm going to the words. Nowhere in the words.
It says nature.
Sir, nature. It says nature. Does it say human?
No, but when you go to etymology of nature, it says give birth, to be born. Your child is what? Your child is.
Hold on. Give birth to what?
Heredity. It also says heredity, birth, hereditary, circumstances, essential qualities, inherent constitution, innate disposition, as in human nature, also nature personified. This is all right here.
Sir, human birth is not the only kind of birth.
Listen, we just gonna go by what the words say. Right
I am going by the word same, and you about to dislocate your shoulder by this reaching that you doing.
Come on, bro. We not gonna do that.
You bro. You are fam. You fam. No, I'm just telling you, it is a giant size reach, though.
We discussing. So if the word says nature, then we have to look up what nature means.
And no,
just like we did property. So when we go to nature, it says literally birth.
I went to property.
Born.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
Give birth.
No, sir.
To be born.
So
we're gonna say humans, we are animals. We're mammals, just like a dog. We're mammals.
Okay, quick question. So I'm your child. That's your property.
I'm just going by what the words say, brother.
I'm asking you, is your child your property?
At this particular moment, the way it's all set up, no.
It's not your property. Okay. Because it's your child, right?
No. The child is supposed to be our property, but we know that these laws are in place for the child to be the state's property.
Children were never the property, sir. You can't find me no indigenous texts that say your child is your property.
We're not going to go there. We're going to go by what we see in front of our face, which is the etymology.
And no, and it does not say children. Legacy didn't say children. Sir, you trying to find, nature. Let me go to sir. No.
That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to cross-reference.
You right. And the children are not property, beloved.
Okay, so we're going to disagree then.
Yo, I appreciate you though. My dude.
Sure.
Yeah, call in again, bro, when I open up the line. I appreciate you. Iron sharpen iron. You heard?
All day.
My man. For sure.
Love.
Peace. Yeah. Kai? Is your name Kai? You call in, bro. The topic is your children are not your legacy. Call in. Oh, 520-510-3254. I told you I'll open up the line for you. I'm not anybody could catch an L. Did he make his point? If he made his point, I'll stand down. I can be corrected. Hold up. This is Ken Billions. What's going on?
What's going on, fam?
What's going on? Is this Kai?
Yes, sir. Well, it's really Kai. I got to change my identity 50 billion times because Facebook keep blocking us.
So what?
That's not my real name.
Okay. What would you like me to call you?
Khan.
K-A-K-H-A-N?
Yes, sir.
K-H-A-N?
K-A-A-N.
All right, my man. Go ahead, bro. You got the floor.
Yes, sir. So, in regards to the way we're using it, first of all, I want to say this. I respect you as an intellect. I respect you with the information you share and the way you decipher information and process information. You're the type of people that I think, like, a majority of us need to have people like you, me, other philosophers, like people who put their heads together and truly process what enriches and empowers a nation and people. I really respect your thought process. So when I talk to you, I talk to you like a brother, like I would talk to another brother, where we may have disagreements, but it's all good intent. You know what I'm saying?
Respect.
But first, the brother that just came on before, and there's another thing, though, that's dangerous that I know I used to do that I feel like you can do sometimes that's dangerous as well, too. We're so smart that sometimes we can manipulate information and content that fits us versus the truth. And what I mean, and the same thing like in society right now, like you said, our children are not our property and we're not our property, but we used to be property. We used to be slaves. We used to be owned as property. And then the servants were property. You had to serve a certain term before you could be even free to liberate it. So we know if laws can manifest certain creations, we know laws can manifest certain content and positions for people. We know that it does exist, but now we have people who manipulate reality to define it as what they see. You understand what I'm saying? And for a big example is
if we even discuss the man, woman, and child being a holy trinity or the creator of family, and then you have the concept of government who can take that and say there's different ways of creating family. And same way, you put legacy up there, but you use the definition you wanted to use. So there's also family legacy. There's definitions. If you Google family legacy, it'll tell you. And regardless to what a family legacy, and regardless of it being hand in hand, with families across, it's wealth that's distributed from family to family or their positions based on previous generations or your descendants, and you sustaining the lineage, and how important that lineage is well too. A legacy can be so strong that it can have a big negative impact on how you live your life, or it can have a great impact on how you live your life. If your name was Jordan, and me, I mean, you too, I'm sure you do it. When we go to family cookouts or something, people will go, hey, Ken, I know your daddy. Your daddy was this. Your daddy was that. And you get different privileges and provisions from him being your daddy. Now, if your daddy was Hitler, or if your daddy was the devil, you'll get a lot of negative experiences from that, and you'll get a lot of things that are detrimental to you regardless of your name, and it's hard to get outside of that legacy. So I do agree with you, though, that baby making isn't something we should just be doing on this earth, where you just create child and you're irresponsible and you're not investing and enriching and empowering the legacy or the position of your family. I do agree with you on that. And sometimes I believe you mix up some information and it comes out a certain way based on how you may feel at that time, which is still no disrespect to you. I think you're a great brother. I think you're a phenomenal brother. I think all of us have certain pros and cons that we may do sometimes when we're discussing things. I still see you as a brilliant person. You're someone that I would put in my circle regardless if we disagree or not. So it's nothing to, be disrespectful to you or say that it's something that, you're using that makes you seem inferior to me in any kind of way. I just want to say that. And also, when we discuss property in history, children before, I believe it was 1874. Before 1874, I don't know if you forget, that's why history is important. Before 1874, children were considered property. And that's why children would work. Children work in the coal mines. They had to make child labor laws and certain laws to protect children because we did consider them as property. And if you speak to elders, if you speak to if you have generations that were before me, before they passed away, that I speak to what the men would do and what the women would do. The kid would be already out in the field working with the father at an early age, 2, 3, 4 years old. And the women would be in the kitchen working with the mothers on how to sustain a household. So there were gender roles. But children, as well as people, government-wise, were considered property. And the last thing I'll say, how powerful the legacy is that you have people still in countries that kill people, that kill their children if they disgrace their legacy, if they embarrass their legacy, if they do something to dampen the legacy. If your daughter was being a damsel, if she was being a Jezebel, people would kill her. If your son did something that was a great crime, they would kill him because it would be so dishonorable. Same thing in Asian cultures where people, kill themselves if they dishonor their father or they tarnish their legacy. So I believe, and it ain't what I believe, whatever I inherited, I have to make sure that I keep a legacy that's going for my kids. I went from being someone who, same thing you talked about, may have moved a certain way in regards to sex, dealing with women in a certain capacity, and we carried ourselves in such a way where we might have, not, was upholding to our responsibility to women and children. Now, as we got older, and I'm sure you're the same way, we know there's a responsibility to men, women, and children in the way we move. So I want to leave a legacy to my children and let them be a legacy as well when I leave. I do. Michael Jordan has his own basketball legacy, but the fact that he has that basketball legacy, his kids can inherit his name and they have a legacy now and they become his legacy and they can keep that name going forever. You understand what I'm saying?
But children aren't legacy though. So when you're talking about passing something, what you pass is legacy. It's not the people. The people are not the legacy. What's being passed from generation to generation is legacy. So thought could be more legacy than a person, right? The physical body doesn't have much agency, bro. We come and we go. what we leave, right? What we leave is legacy. What you were talking about, fam, that's not legacy. Babies are not legacy. And what I'm saying is we be so in a rush to do that because we think it is, but it's not. Even family legacy deals with the things that are past. Family legacy is not the people. It's the things that are past that is tucked away in the portfolio, the trust, right? The estate. That's legacy. Not my face. That's legacy. So what I'm saying is when we're especially now in the podcast world, only thing we talk about is having children. We don't talk about what goes into the what pours into the children. We don't talk about the infrastructure for the children. It's just babies. What about the kids? And what about the kids? What about the kids? That's the problem now for the children. No legacy was passed to them. We don't need no more goddamn babies. We don't. Without no legacy, life insurance is a legacy. A living trust is a legacy. Passing land is a legacy. Me having a baby with a woman is not legacy. You say what to that?
And I still will agree to disagree. If we had two powerful men having a discussion right now, whether it could be, I don't know, I could pick Mandela, I could pick Malcolm X speaking, and they disagreed. And I could use Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Their perspective, and regardless to how to accomplish the goal, was different. You know, one, Malcolm X said, by any means necessary to defend your family and your honor, your name, and to leave a legacy by people knowing exactly who you are and sustaining your manhood and womanhood. And Martin Luther King was more so on integrating with the society instead of becoming our own society, even though it might have changed later on, and that's why he got killed. But when you say you're passing a gift, when you say you're passing an idea, when you say you're passing certain things that you give to this world, I believe when you're speaking, because of my experience, you're speaking from a negative context of human beings because of both of me and yours experience, which I can understand and relate to. But if we're going to say it's an idea, we're going to say it's a gift. Children are essentially an extension of us. They're not just their own self. They're you still. They're a part of you. They are your legacy. That bloodline. They can't I do real estate. One of my friends inherited $1 million worth of real estate. He didn't do nothing for it, right? But whatever his ancestors did, his great-grandfather or his grandfather before that, did what they did so that when in his face right now, he has properties in his name so that he can sustain and empower and continue to enrich his family. That's the legacy. Now, if you're saying if you're going to separate distinguishing someone's accomplishment as a different legacy versus a legacy of your household, there's two separate entities. That's why I disagree. Your kids, there's different type of legacies that you give to this world. You can say your children are your descendants, but they're also everything you put in that child is you essentially. Everything that child puts into that next child is still a replica or impacted by what happened prior to that child, which is you. It's a bunch of yous that come to this world where you sustain either destroying their future or you either destroy their future or you build their future. And this stuff I speak about all the time. When I see people who come from broken families, I go, look, you have the option to empower and restore your family legacy and have a family, or continue to stay broken. And there's people I see that come from amazing families that destroy their family names, that destroy their family legacies. So I have to disagree on that, brother.
All that you're saying is not legacy. You're making the word actually mean what you want it to mean. I'm going off what the word means, not what. And you said I didn't use the wrong definition. I used the origin of the word. That's what etymology is. Where does the word come from? So now, since we speak a Western language, we're able to track the language and where it comes from. That's etymology, right? So I didn't use just a random definition. I used what the word means when it was spoken in the 14th century, and it has nothing to do with having children.
So you're confirming, you're saying what I said. You're using you're using that outdated version of that word.
Oh, okay. Okay. So what you're so
for instance, the word mother effer and the shit word you can use in so many different ways and contexts. You know, like I'm the shit, or I'm gonna give him shit, or you get what I'm saying, or just like you can use words in so many different contexts. You can create this like thought or whatever kind of words people create. There's words, human beings, essentially, that's why we have different cultures. That's why we have different languages. When people disagreed, they deviated from the nation they were with, and they created their own terminology, their own words, their own different ways they want to translate information or create information. Everybody's not on the same frequency. That's the same reason why you have Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives. There are powerful people that can't agree on on words. They can't agree on a process. They can't agree on a direction. I do believe that what you're trying to say is me and you are both intent. I think because of how we're using words and the way terminology or the way words or context can be used based on what we're trying to say, because there's things you share when you say we're so big. We're talking about it's the same.
Let me interrupt just real quick, bro. So I gave you the etymology, right? Now I have very old dictionaries, right? So I gave you the etymology. Now let me go with the dictionary says. My dictionary. This is a New World Dictionary of American language. This dictionary is like from the 60s. All right.
Okay.
Legacy, money or property left to someone by a will, bequest, anything handed down from an ancestor. Has nothing to do with having children. Bro, one thing that we do, okay, I was taught coming up to study to show thyself approved. And the mistake that we make is we make words mean what we want it to mean because we have an emotional connection to it. Now, I'm sure you have children, yes? That's why you think children are a legacy. You have an identity associated with the word.
No, I don't have kids.
You don't have I thought you just said yes.
No. I meant to say no.
So you have kids or no? No kids. Okay. So if you have children, I'm sure you're coming into it from a perspective that that's your legacy. That's not. That's your descendant. That's all it is. So your legacy, bro, is what you pass to them. Your legacy is what you leave. Your descendant is a biological thing. Legacy is not biology. And what happens is first, many of us don't know how to speak legalese. So there's English and there's legalese where the language completely changes and words don't mean what we think it means, like black, right? Things mean different things, right?
That's what I'm trying to say.
But
that's perfectly what you're saying right there.
But legacy has not changed its meaning, bro.
I can read. Okay, why is it you pulled up something where I could pull up something else and read a definition of legacy, and you could read a different definition of legacy?
Oh, so all you have to do is source up. I told you what I'm reading.
I'm on a phone. It's
okay. So yeah, the thing about it is I'll source up, right? So I'm not gonna say something and not be able for you to look at it yourself, and then we can right. So what I'm saying is, children are not legacy. Does it make them not special? No, has nothing to do with anything emotional. Legacy, the etymology is much older than the dictionary version, but legacy etymologically was a person sent on a mission. Okay, so this is why we are able to talk about certain individuals from the past because of their works. That's what a man is known by, not his children. The world will never know your children. Most likely, they will know your works. If I put in the chat, someone quote a law from the 48 laws of power, somebody would be like, conceal your intentions, never outshine the master. That's legacy. Now, if he passes the masters or the copyright to that book to his child, he's passing them a legacy. Now they have ownership in his works, but the children are not legacy. That's all it is. And what and the problem is, bro, is we go into the child thing too soon without thinking legacy first. I'll give you my example. That was a mistake of mine. I had a child at 24 with no legacy. He was not my legacy. So now then he got born, and then I had to rush and run to create legacy for him. But that was irresponsible of me to have a child before I had legacy, because anything can happen to me. Legacy comes first before you have a child.
No, but look, you just said it. But this is why we agree to disagree. You just admitted that you didn't have a legacy to give your child, right?
I didn't have a legacy to give my child.
But you did technically. It wasn't a developed legacy. It was something that your son would have inherited. Your child would have inherited a lacking legacy. Versus you made and built yourself to where you could pass on the legacy to your child that he sustained.
Legally, how would I put that in a trust? How would I put what you're saying in a trust?
What do you mean? It goes into your child inherits your legacy.
No, okay. So what I'm saying is,
this is what I mean. All your ideas, everything you've done with your life, same thing with my parents, with my mother, everything they've done with their life, when that is put in a will, is inherited by your child. They become the inheritor of your legacy. Right. They become but they are an extension of you. That is your bio. That is you.
How do I put the things that you're saying that I can't touch, right? That there's no trustee over.
Your child, and what they have is the manifestation of what you created.
Man, look, bro. When we're talking about legal, they don't use manifestation. That's new age stuff. So right. They don't talk like that. When I go to create a living trust, I cannot put manifestation inside of the living trust.
But we do still, like Kobe Bryant's kids. Wherever his kids go, there's a legacy. There's a legacy left behind to where they still have privileges and provisions and have everything they father created as an inheritance is still his legacy. That's still the Bryant legacy. Legally,
you're talking about stuff. The kids are not the legacy, though. That's my point. The stuff.
They continue. If he didn't have, that's what I mean by different legacies.
You're making up. Bro. Can you show? Okay. Can you show me in law what you're talking about?
And what do you define what you think I'm trying to say?
Because what you're talking now, listen, now look, I'll go with you. What you're talking about is ethics. You're using words like manifestation. You're talking about teaching and wisdom and guidance. Now, if you want to talk about in an indigenous world where things are handed, where things are from hand to mouth, customs and traditions, in an indigenous society, yeah, that'll be legacy, because we're dealing with what's in the natural, right? But when you are in America and you're dealing with commerce, that's not legacy. But if you are an indigenous person and you are going by tribal rules where you pass on relics and you may pass on tablets or papyruses or what great grandfather said, right? So it's passed down mouth to ear, things like that. In an indigenous tribal society, off-grid society, I'll go with you, but we're not off-grid. So I'm talking about within the confines of what we understand right now, legacy is not the children. Legacy is what we pass. It's not genetic.
Right. And what I'm saying, family, when we pass, when we die, if I die, whatever I left behind is passed on, including my children. It's whether you're saying it's in a will or my children's name would be in a will. My wife would be in a will. Everything is passed on to them.
The will is the legacy, though, not the kids. The kids are not the legacy. The will is. The living trust is the legacy. The acres is the legacy. The endowment is the legacy.
So you're saying, okay, let me ask you this. You're saying when you're on your deathbed, everything you built and created that your son inherits, you don't think he becomes your legacy of what he's withholding and everything you built up to pass to him to become your legacy now. And even if you don't say it's his legacy, they are going to treat your son, whoever.
You went out, fam. You went out. Man, you in the matrix, bro. I can't hear anything you're saying. Oh, you got to call back in, bro. We can't hear you. You borged up. I think this is the disconnect. Legacy is what you give. Is not the children. The children are descendants. That's it. If estate plan, right? These books, I can create a way where I can make these books go to anybody in my family. That's legacy. The person that it's going to is not legacy. That's it. And I'm a father. You know what I'm saying? It's not the human being. Bro, if you want to call back in or anybody call back in, the topic today is your children are not your legacy. And I would like people to do a different kind of birth. Babies are cool, the collectiveness that it gives us, the feeling of meaning, but there's another kind of birth and the ideals. The Kabbalion tells us that the universe is mental, mind. Give birth to these thoughts. Give birth to the things that future generations are going to be like, oh shit, you made my life easier. Right? Give birth to new ways that we can use energy. Give birth to changes in engineering. The babies, I understand, especially when people come from poverty. We're giving birth because we want to feel something. And I'm telling you, create. I'm telling you, do. I'm telling you, live forever. So people can deify your completed works, complete your uncompleted works, build edifices of you, and say your name. That's Miss Barb right there. Miss Barb died in 2018. I'm not Miss Barb's legacy. Miss Barb didn't have a legacy. She had children. Welcome to Coin Gang. This is Ken.
Hey, Ken. This is Charlotte.
How you doing, Charlotte?
I'm good. I'm really trying to understand why is this rocket science? So I'm going to use an example, and you help me to see if I'm understanding this correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw a documentary about Black American farmers who inherited the land through the generations since like the days of slavery.
Mm-hmm.
But now, during the time of those descendants of millennials, they no longer want to farm that land. So that legacy is now being bought by different corporations because the young people in that family no longer desire to farm and do the business work for that land. Would that be the proper understanding of seeing that the human itself is not the legacy? These young people don't even want to do it. They're interested in building their lives in other ways. They went to college, they got degrees, they have other interests. They don't want to be farmers. Would that be the proper understanding of seeing that the thing is the legacy and not the person?
The thing is, there you go, beloved. The thing is the legacy, not the person. So again, we I think culturally are in arrested development where our primary purpose for being here, we believe, is to have babies. So that's why we see everything through that lens of mating and dating. Notice how all the conversations are about marriage, right? We are stuck there. We are stuck in a dick and pussy conversation over and over again. And notice how the conversations are about how to make things better, like create things.
Right.
Right? You have earned your leisure, right? And a couple others,
Yes.
couple you know what I'm saying? But it's
Right.
but they stand out because it's not many. Right?
Exactly.
Guess what everybody else is talking about? Having babies. Because they believe that the baby is the legacy, and it's not.
So I have a question for you then. One of your goals in how you communicate through your platform is to attempt to try to help people get unstuck then, correct?
Yes.
Okay, because just listening to the dialogue between you and the other two gentlemen, as a woman who doesn't think like a man, I was thinking to myself, how are men even open to think differently, to accept a new perspective, if the agenda is to be right? Shouldn't the agenda be to learn?
Yeah, but that's tough though, beloved, because all right, so when I'm saying that kids are not legacy,
Right.
the thing about that is there's an identity associated with having babies and family and community. So when we're talking about community, we're talking about just having children, right? Notice we're not talking about coming up with a way to create some type of collective pension for elders. We're not talking about how to fix the roads. When we're talking about community, we're only talking about fucking. And because our identity is there, that's why it's a hard thing to receive, because community has nothing to do with building shit. It has everything to do with just having children. And that's it. No
And when you say
Go ahead.
our identity, do you mean Black people as a whole or men in particular?
Well, okay, two things. I think the gene and men think about survival first, but then so you put that mentality into our culture too, where it's just based on bucks having sex.
Right.
Right? So you have the survival element, like every other male, but then you put it in the spirit of a buck, where it's my legacy is my son, is my face. Is come on, man, we already got people here.
Right.
Now, and I'm not even being funny. What is the average person doing on a day to day? Nothing.
Right.
That's not legacy. Now, whatever I build up, if I pass it to my child, if he doesn't want to add on to it, if he don't want to do anything, that's fine.
Right.
I pass my legacy on. He doesn't have to pick it up though. Right?
Wow.
And the interesting is I'm bringing up the definitions and the terms of the word, and people are making it mean what they want it to mean. Well, what about this and what? Nah, man, that is what it is, right? Legacy is wills, trust, movement, creation, not children, right? It's things that you create, right? And notice it has a lot. It's kind of leaning towards intellectual property. your real estate, right? Your living trust, how you allocate that. Do you want $50,000 a year to go to X, Y, and Z? And who's going to govern and manage that? Right? Who's the trustee? Who's the trustor? Right? That's legacy. It's not children. We want it to be children because we want in-house dick and in-house pussy.
That's crazy.
That's all it's about, having in-house. Meanwhile, guess what's here? The Statue of Liberty. Somebody made that. The Eiffel Tower. Somebody made that. I'm not sure if you've been to the Grand Canyon or a trip to the Grand Canyon. You have Lake Mead over there. You have the Hoover Dam. That's legacy. You know what I'm saying? That's legacy. So what I'm saying, you have any children?
I have a daughter. She's in her sophomore year of college.
That's dope. That's great. And I just want to tell you, having a child is not all you are. You got a lot to contribute. You got a lot to do. There's books you haven't read, places you haven't been before, conversations you haven't had before. And I'm telling you, beloved, there's ideals that you're right on the cusp on. You already gave birth to a child, right? Now it's time for you to give birth to the things that's going to make you live forever.
Thank you for that.
You know what I'm saying? So make sure you create, and don't let no one take you from to being a creation. Your daughter's in college. That's your descendant. You did a good job. Now it's mama's time to make something that is going to outlive you and your daughter.
Wow. Thank you for that.
Man, I appreciate your call.
All right. Have a good one.
All right, for sure. Legacy is not children. And I want to encourage people to begin to birth new ideals, different ways of different perspectives. The Kabbalion teaches us that all is mind. All is mind. So begin to birth thoughts. If the only thing you can do is birth people, you an animal. Anybody else want to call? Shout out to the sis. Legacy is not children. Who disagrees? Anybody disagree? My name is Body Bag Ken. I body bag shit. You know why? Because we need a different perspective. And our perspective is off. And he's ideal. Jay Brown on Facebook, call in. Jay. That's the number. 520-510-3254. If you disagree, call. Tell me why you disagree. Legacy isn't children. I'm open to be proven wrong. Because I want y'all to create. We're going to be gone one day. And the things that are left standing that people are inspired by, things that people read about us, things, our perspective, our mindset. You ain't just baby makers. You ain't just a buck. You got the ability to do shit that that you didn't even think was possible, all from birthing thoughts. These people want you to the nation. They want you to put the group before yourself. All they want you to do is have children. Why? So they can issue out them Social Security card, the birth certificates. Babies, 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 babies. We don't need no more babies for a second. First of all, we got to improve on the human design. We're in the goddamn dark ages right now in terms of intellect. We don't even know what words mean. So we want to bring babies into a world where we don't even know the words that we use. We don't even know what they mean. I'm going to the etymology of the word legacy. Nowhere does it say babies. Couple more minutes if you disagree. Y'all heard that verse in the Bible, be fruitful and multiply, and automatically thought kids. I get it, because you want to have sex. If sex wasn't part of having children, y'all wouldn't do it. It's not that you love children. No, you like having sex, and children happen from it. That's why. You like sex. Because if y'all really like children, if y'all really thought that children was a legacy, they wouldn't be in the condition that they're in. If y'all really thought children was a legacy, the foster care system wouldn't be what it is. If you really thought children was a legacy, y'all wouldn't make the music that y'all make. If you, oh, got a call. What's up, man? This is Ken Billions. What's going on?
Hi, this is Jay Brown.
How you doing?
Facebook.
How you doing, Jay?
I'm doing well. I'm sitting here listening to your live.
Okay.
And I'm here that you're saying that legacy is not your children. And I disagree with that, because I feel that the legacy that you're speaking of is basically just works that you're leaving behind. Legacy, in terms that you're speaking of, only has an impact in the world if it's a legacy. Otherwise, like Oprah, what she does, she has a legacy. Jay-Z, Beyonce, what they do, that's their legacy. But if you're sitting here and you're Joe Blow up the block, what you're leaving behind to your children is just your works and your inheritance. It's not something that you would consider a legacy, because wouldn't nobody know that what Joe Blow does. For instance, my father was a plumber. I'm not a plumber, but I could be if I wanted to. But what he left behind to me was his genetics. And that would be a legacy that he left behind to me. So that's why I consider your children being your legacy, because it's not about who they are or what works they can pass on from what you've done. It's about your genetic superiorness that you put out into the world, if that makes sense.
Okay, so let me ask you, are you making legacy mean what you want it to mean?
No, I'm going according to what you're saying. You're saying legacy is basically your works.
Okay, so when you started off with I feel. So when I'm talking about legacy, this is not actually what I feel. This is what it says. It doesn't have anything to do with children. What you pass to the children is legacy that you put in a will and a trust. Now, if you pass genetics in a will and a trust, if you pass some type of ancient DNA from your great grandmother, and you put that in a will and a trust, right? And there's terms and conditions with that blood, that's a legacy. The children are not the legacy.
I disagree. That's an inheritance. That's just what you leave behind to your children. If I build up $100,000 and I put it in a trust to be left to my children, that's just their inheritance. That has nothing to do with what I built. It has nothing to do with what I put out into the world. It has nothing to do with the impact that I left on the world. But what I birthed to my children, if I pass down asthma, diabetes, high blood pressure, that would be their legacy, because that would be within them, manifested from my genes and their father's genes, and it comes down into them. Okay, go over there. It's over there, baby. if that makes sense. Like your legacy are your children because you're passing down your genetic code. If you come from an alcoholic parentage, you might become an alcoholic. Maybe not, but that would be in your genetic code. And that would be the legacy that they pass down to you to be alcoholic. Same thing if you were an athlete. That would be in your genetic code. You will be naturally strong. So where I get that you're saying that, you're just not a buck or a breeder or anything like that. There was reasonings that they were having sex farms for the slaves because they were trying to pass on certain genetic codes that would make a person stronger, faster, smarter, if that makes any sense. But what that slave did, as far as how many cotton fields they picked or whatever they did that day, that doesn't mean that their children are capable of doing the same thing, because that would be their own individual impact into the world. If I come out with a book that sold 1 million copies, that would be my legacy, my personal legacy. My child then come out and they start a gym, that would be their personal legacy. But what I pass down to my children is my intellect, my drive, my determination, my...
Beloved, beloved, I got to end this call because I got to make some moves. But legally, what you're saying, and by definition, that's not legacy. The etymology.
Well, that's why I disagree with you and what you're saying, that legally what you're speaking of is inheritance.
No.
But thank you for taking my call.
1 second. Body, the etymology of the word legacy is body of persons sent on a mission. That's not my opinion. That's what it means. Then in law, legacy is money or property left to someone by a will.
Okay. So in law, it's still, like I said, inheritance, because it's left within the will. In etymology-wise, it would have to be a body sent on a mission. Therefore, the body of the person that I came from, which was from me, the mission that they have is their own personal mission. I just don't see the connect. Legally speaking, maybe legacy is not your children, legally speaking, but legally speaking, legacy is just an inheritance.
Okay.
But if you're going to go by etymology-wise, like you said, a body of a person sent on a mission.
Body of persons. Body of persons with an S.
Okay, that persons came through this body to be sent on the
that's not what it's.
Life,
that's not what. Hey, bro, beloved, I gotta go. I appreciate your call. Tap in with me again. Okay. All right. Bye-bye. Peace. Shout out to the stream. Good call. I got to make some moves. Got another engagement. Until next.